So President Trump filed a lawsuit against the House Ways and Means Committee and New York officials in an effort to protect his tax returns. In the complaint, President Trump's attorney, Jay Sekulow, writes New York's new law allowing the president's tax returns to be released is unconstitutional and, quote, lacks a legitimate legislative purpose. Sekulow also claims that the law violates Mr. Trump's First Amendment rights. So joining me now is CBS News legal analyst Rebecca Roiphe to talk about this. So let us go back in time a little, because, people may be hearing about all these different attempts to get access to the president's tax returns, and it gets folded in. So the New York law is specific to New York tax returns.
Exactly.
And it's also specific to particular congressional committees. It's not just, the tax returns can go to whoever asks for it at the federal level. Can you just explain it to us?
Yeah, so basically this is a New York law that passed that enables New York to obtain from New York's tax officials Trump's state tax returns. Then, in turn, the U.S. Congress Ways and Means Committee can obtain those taxes from New York State, or at least theoretically. I don't think that they've committed to necessarily doing that, but theoretically they could. So the concern here is secondary to the first concern, which is House Ways and Means is going to get, or from Treasury, his federal tax returns, and now we're concerned about his state tax returns.
So the president is now fighting this, and we've heard what Jay Sekulow had to say, that there's no legitimate reason. Explain his side of the argument.
Yeah, I mean, he repeats his mantra, which has been working, which is there is no legislative purpose here. There's no legitimate legislative purpose. What this is a political attempt to destroy this president. It's, in Trump's terms, it's presidential harassment. Right. And then secondarily, in terms of the state officials, the effort to block the state officials from getting his tax returns, his argument is that this is a violation of President Trump's First Amendment rights. So he's filing this complaint as a private citizen. And he's saying, by coming after me, this is essentially retaliation for my political beliefs, which is interesting. He's done this before, claimed I'm a private citizen now in this lawsuit. Sorry, putting my president hat aside, I'm now a private citizen. It didn't work when he tried to do that with his Twitter feed. Remember, he said, I'm a private citizen, I can block whoever I want. And I said, no, you're the president, and so this is a public forum. That's what the court said. But here it's a totally different story, and it actually, I think, has a little bit more merit, because with respect to the New York state government, President Trump is a private citizen. So it is a little bit more of a legitimate claim to say, here, you're coming after me as a private citizen. Now, of course, on the other side, no, you're not. I mean, the people in New York, you're also their elected officials. Right. So they have a right to see, your tax returns, and pretending just to all of a sudden you become a private citizen. You can't do that. You can't strip yourself of your presidency for this purpose.
But he's not legally obligated as the president to release his tax returns. It's more of a tradition, right?
Absolutely. So this is a tradition that has been followed up through every president before him. And the question is, now when he's flouting those traditions, how do we get those tax returns? So there's this effort in the federal government now, already a lawsuit, and this is a tag-along lawsuit. So both of these lawsuits are efforts to get his tax returns, his federal tax returns, and here, his state tax returns.
When I read about this, my initial reaction was, well, the president keeps saying that he's more than willing to release his tax returns. It's just that he's under audit, and now you're fighting it. So it seems like a little bit of a contradiction. Are you willing to release it or not?
Yeah, and the audit story, I mean, it's, gone on a little bit long from 2016. So I don't think that's it. But there's an important question here, which is, we have two narratives. One is, this is a proper oversight. This is an effort to exercise proper oversight. On the one part by Congress, on the other part here by a state whose citizens have an interest here. That's the one story. The other story is, this is a continual effort to destroy this president. And so
that's what I wanted to ask you. I mean, could you argue presidential harassment precisely because he's not legally obligated to release any of this stuff? This is his private information. If he wants to share it with us, great. If not, why all these multiple angles to get it? Isn't it legitimate that could be a form of harassment?
I think the state this particular lawsuit that just came out now makes that story a little bit more compelling because it's, look, you've tried, you're litigating it, and then you're just, piling on here. And Letitia James really did campaign on this, I'm after Trump, which is, in my mind, inappropriate. If you're a legal official, you shouldn't be after somebody because of their political beliefs or you don't agree with them or you don't like their presidency. And so she looks, she looks rabid. She looks like she's after him. And I don't think that's, I don't think that's appropriate. On the other hand, the legitimate congressional oversight point is an important one. We as a country need to know whether our president has conflicts of interest, entanglements with foreign countries that might impair his ability to act on behalf of Americans. And so that is a legitimate legislative purpose. If you want to think about maybe we need to enact legislation to make sure that our public officials are not in some situation in which we don't know about, in which their judgment is being impaired and warped. And so, I think there's definitely a good argument for that. I think that when I read this complaint, I thought, wow, this sounds much more convincing on the part of Trump's attorneys, because here he's going after state tax returns. He's, they're just trying to get the same information, right? There's a lot of the same information in there. So,
but you make a great point here. We have a president that we know, for example, tried to start a development in Moscow and then kind of misled us about, when exactly he let go of that opportunity and all that sort of stuff. It's going to be a really interesting legal